Hi, this is Peter Woolfolk speaking. Now, first of all, thank you so very much for listening to the podcast. Now, I am very excited to let you know that the podcast is now available on Amazon Alexa. You know the drill. Simply say, Alexa, play Public Relations Review Podcast, and she'll take it from there. And again, thank you for listening. And if you enjoy the program, please become a subscriber. Now, on to the podcast.
Welcome. This is the Public Relations Review Podcast, a program to discuss the many facets of public relations with seasoned professionals, educators, authors, and others. Now, here is your host, Peter Woolfolk.
Welcome to the Public Relations Review Podcast and to our listeners all across America and around the world. Now, we are ranked by Apple as being among the top 1% of podcasts worldwide. So let me say thank you to all of our guests and listeners for this special recognition. Now, question. Have you, as public relations practitioners, begun to explore the use of artificial intelligence in your public relations projects? Opportunities exist for storytelling, press releases, announcements, media relations, and more. AI video brings added attention to your projects. I personally am now a disciple with AI video simply because I use it to promote my individual podcast episodes and the podcast generally. So joining me today from London, England, is Matt Kershaw, Vice President of Strategy with DID Creative Reality Studio. Matt, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. Great to be here.
So look, why don't we start by you telling us exactly what DID does and how the users of it can benefit from your activities over there.
Sure, absolutely. So DID is the leading platform to create what we call digital humans and do it in real time. So you can create videos, you can take a picture, upload an image, or use one of our ready-made avatars, add text to it, and what it will create is a video, a talking video, presenting whatever content you want it to present. And because we can generate animations really, really quickly, like 100 frames per second, 4 times real time, what that also allows us to do is create these digital human avatars that you can interact with. So you can also, create your website or your press release, as well as just giving, say, an example would be, instead of just releasing a press release, you might have a bunch of Q&As that live behind that, and now your avatar can be available to journalists for them to quiz and ask questions and hear it from the avatar. So instead of just a normal press release, suddenly it becomes an interactive experience for those people to interact with.
Mm-hmm. Now, have you have people actually come to you, and have you actually seen some of the results of some, let's say, customers or people who have said, yes, I did it, and look what we've done? What do you think about that?
Yeah, we have lots and lots of users kind of around the world. I think, having the ability to create content on the fly, like really rich, engaging video content, is obviously one of those things that lots of different, has really, really broad applications. But actually where we really focus is on the kind of marketing and sales side of things. We know from a lot of studies that, video is much more likely to get attention. People are much more likely to watch video than they are to read text.
Mm-hmm.
We know, again, from other research that faces are really compelling. They just get more attention. So that's, again, really super useful in the kind of marketing, communication space. And the other thing that's really interesting about these human avatars is they can be really, really representative of and diverse, and really represent the audiences maybe you're trying to reach and talk to in in any language really. And we support 120 languages. And that's the other thing, is we know that where the presenter kind of is right for the audience, the information is better retained. Again, there's been a lot of kind of research into this space. So yeah, there's just something, if you want trying to sell, you're trying to get people to learn something, you're trying to get them to engage better with your brand, it's better with a human avatar.
You know, what comes to mind as I listen to you say that, particularly there are some organizations that it might be most appropriate for the president or chairman of the organization to speak to it. I mean, it could be announcing a new piece of equipment or program, or that you've had an emergency and he or she needs to be heard from. That because I've seen that those individuals, those being a chairman, you can feed the photo into the system and it converts it into an avatar so that it looks like it's actually speaking, and then actually upload his voice, and it it captures all of that, so it really looks like the president or chairman is actually speaking when it's really he's become an avatar.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of our customers, I can't kind of say who they are, but they're a large, multinational insurance company. And what they do, they've turned, 5 or 6 of their most senior management into avatars that can then give, communicate, in this case, mostly internally. But it means they can do it in multiple languages as well. Mm. So it becomes super useful where you have an international footprint, and it means just be your CEO. A lot of brands and a lot of companies have ambassadors who talk for them. They have, deals with, sports stars. And typically you only have access to that person, maybe, a few days a year, 1 or 2, 3 days a year. Now you can, by working with them and spending a couple of hours capturing some video, capturing their voice, you can turn them into a 24/7, 365 experience, that that will do communication on behalf of your brand and your company.
That raises an interesting question, and let's just stay with sports figures, that you do have them under contract to be a spokesperson for you. This might be a little bit out of the realm, but do you pay them individually for each separate AI video that they do? How would something like that work?
Yeah, I think we're at the really interesting boundary. There's so much new technology and new ways of doing things. I think the contracts haven't necessarily caught up with that. So I don't think there is a kind of set way of doing it. Mm-hmm. But, and obviously you couldn't just use that spokesperson's likeness and their voice, without agreeing it all up front with them. But, right. The value in that, they don't have to do any more work. You're only taking a very specific part of their time, a limited amount of their time. And then you're getting, a lot more backs, and you're getting a lot more bang for your buck from that. And obviously, I'm sure the negotiation would be you would have to pay them extra, but I very much doubt it would be a multiplier of 365, right? Mm. You wouldn't have to, because they're not making any further effort than what they put in the first place. So I think in a way it's kind of a win-win situation. They're getting probably a bit more money, but you're getting way more value out of that partnership than you would have otherwise.
One of the things, again, as I sit here and I'm looking at something that says basically press releases, because 9 times out of 10 we write a press release, particularly if it's talking about a physical object, we send a photograph of it. But now we can actually have video of it and someone standing beside it, or however they can conjure up where someone is actually, the avatar is actually speaking and reciting all of the benefits of having this particular device, whereas as compared to just seeing a photograph of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we now have, again, another one of our customers is a major global telecom business, and they use our technology in retail, to create these kiosks where people, what it's like when you're buying a phone or you're buying a mobile contract. There's a lot of detail and a lot of fiddly questions that people want to ask. So they've created basically like a kiosk in store. People can go up to it and speak to the digital avatar and get the information they need, and that frees up the store staff and the store representatives to deal with the more important job of actually selling and closing deals rather than just providing information. So yeah, there's all sorts of ways this technology, I think, can be used and to make all our lives kind of richer and better.
That also brings up, pardon me, as I think again about thought leadership, because that is a big issue right now in terms of getting particularly leaders of organizations or companies to be perceived as or seen as thought leaders. So now rather than just writing an editorial piece, we can now actually have them speaking by way of an avatar wherever and whenever we need them, because that's available. Because once you write the information, you just feed it into the computer. It does whatever it does, and there's an avatar of him saying those very words, and he's somewhere else.
Absolutely, and as I said earlier, we know that people are much more likely to watch a video than they are probably read an article. So you can grab their attention, grab them initially with some video. If it's of interest to them, they're going to go and read the article more deeply. If they're really interested in it and they have follow-up questions, they can then ask CEO or your thought leader, follow-up questions. So it becomes a really rich kind of experience that you can create around, these thought leadership pieces. And it's like true storytelling. You're engaging people initially, you're giving them some really rich information, and then you're allowing them to kind of quiz you. I think that's a kind of feels like a really natural process of how we engage with stories and information, much more than here's an article, read it or don't read it, and expecting people to spend their time doing that.
Now, in terms of background, does your setup have an opportunity for people to set up particular backgrounds of their own or their stock backgrounds? How do you handle that?
Yeah, we have kind of different kinds of avatars. Like I said, you can upload a single image. So obviously, if that image has already the background you want in it, or has your logo in view, or maybe the person is wearing a T-shirt with the logo on it, that would work. The alternative would be you use one of our ready-made avatars. They've been filmed on a green screen, so again, you can put a background image in, you can put your logo in, you can make all the text, put text up on the video, and that be in your company, colors, whatever it might be. So yeah, there's full branding available depending on the version you want to go with.
Another thing, as I'm sitting here thinking, because companies or organizations, a lot of them have newsletters. And some of those newsletters are just circulated maybe within the company, or maybe they'll send them out to a broader audience as well. That sounds like an ideal opportunity, because now that you can manipulate the backgrounds and even change individual people, it does not have to be one person speaking all the time. The creativity begins to kick in as you develop opportunities for AI videos.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a couple of things on that. One is, in terms of newsletters, they're not very personalized, are they? It might say at the top, hi Peter, hi Matthew. It might use your name, but that's it. Basically, everyone gets the same content. With our system, you can completely personalize it. So, part of your newsletter might be have an introduction from you or your CEO or spokesperson, and they're saying in the video, hi Matthew, hi Peter, hi Matthew. I see you're in London. They can mention your location, they can mention the time of day, they can talk about the weather, you can make the video personalized in a way that we're only ever used to possibly seeing text personalized. And again, that creates more engagement, richer. You feel like, there's a wow factor to it. It's like, oh my God, they've literally sent me a personalized video. How many, and you can create hundreds of thousands of these, millions of them, kind of on the fly using our tech. So there's some really, really interesting ways, we could really revolutionize this space.
Have we missed something that perhaps has been very unusual that somebody has asked to produce for you, or you could produce for them, that you've been able to do that's been outside of the normal way of things that we might have talked about? Something unusual that might have come down the pike and said, can you help me make this happen?
So, yeah, we are building out the tech and to do more and more and more clever stuff. So right now it's relatively static. You see a presenter and they're talking to you. Where we're moving to is technology that allows you to film movement. I have a demo video where I've filmed in my garden, and I just using my wife just had a mobile phone on me, and I'm literally going in circles, and then we're able to use our technology to bring that to like, I'm silent, but in the video that we output from DID, suddenly I'm talking. So suddenly the ability to create these videos of, you know, your spokesperson or your CEO or whoever it might be, while they're walking down the street, or while they're looking at the product and talking about the product, pointing to the product.
Mm-hmm.
You know, these are all things that are like going to become absolutely real just in the next 2 or 3 months. So yeah, this, rather than it being, you know, kind of quite a static situation, someone's looking at you and talking in one position, the ability to be moving while it's happening, I think, is going to open up a huge number of possibilities.
Mm-hmm. You know, I'm just thinking again, because we talked about newsletters, but again, it's creativity that really gives you the opportunity to make things different and keep people engaged in using this AI video. Because I'm sitting here thinking, I remember years ago, I was doing some work for a hospital, and they had the standard newsletter that they put together and sent out I think it was every week. But because hospitals have a lot of film and video and so forth, mostly for use for operations, I suggested, well, wait a minute, why don't we go around and use the video to look at all the things that are going on in the hospital that people don't know about, and send it over the hospital system once a week so people can see. I'm beginning to think, here's AI, this AI video, a lot of opportunities we can do those kinds of things, because, you know, some companies, people only work in one division and might not have any idea what goes on in other places in a company. So I think the imagination is almost unlimited in these circumstances.
Yeah, I would say, I think, and again, this language issue, you know, swap out, you know, you record someone filming in English, but like we can auto translate it, you know, using some kind of dubbing technology into, say, Spanish, if, you know, some of the users and the viewers are Spanish speaking, you know, making the content be on the terms of the user,
mm-hmm.
the consumer, is like, you know, it's gold dust. People are so much more likely to watch, consume, remember content that kind of meets them halfway, that meets them on the, you know, the grounds where they want it to be. So yeah, I think you know, we've talked about, you know, answering queries in real time in showrooms. We've talked about you know, internal usage. I think there's a load of stuff around, you know, like turning them into assistants to help people, you know, almost like concierge services, or, you know, helping them understand, I don't know, you know, a product they're buying. I think in terms of, you know, the press release, I think there's a really interesting piece around relationship with media professionals. A lot of the time when you're talking to, you know, you're in a PR team, you're talking to publications, you know, they are busy. They are busy people. Journalists are busy.
Mm-hmm.
They're moving around. They've got 100 other PRs trying to get hold of them, talk to them. Like, to be able to cut through with something really, you know, new and innovative and different and, you know, video-based, I think is super interesting and personalized. So, you know, everyone's used to getting just generic videos, but if you can get a video that's talking to you specifically, think how much more likely you are to engage with that story.
Well, I can say personally, I mean, 100%, that would be a huge improvement. And I certainly will be looking at opportunities for that. And I've got some projects coming down the road where that would absolutely fit in, where they can actually hear from the head of the organization and then actually see some photos of visuals of what will be taking place. And the fact that I can personalize it so that it can say, well, fine, welcome, Matt, I want you to take a look at this, and do that for each individual reporter. And I'm sure we've got an excellent amount of response from that.
Yeah, no, I'm sure that's right. It's just anything where you need to cut through, you know, and have more engagement, which, let's face it, I mean, name me an industry where there doesn't need that, really. These digital avatars are going to help you do that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's a really interesting, really interesting space. I mean, we're, you know, we have a studio, kind of self-serve studio, so you can come to d-id.com, check out our studio. You can sign up, you know, users can sign up for free, try it out. If they like it, also there's sort of paid plans. But, you know, I think a lot of this space is about trying it. I think it's been such a revolution happened in the past year to 18 months around all this generative AI stuff that I think what people need to do to make the most of it is just get involved, like try stuff out, see how it works, get involved with it, try experiments inside, work with colleagues to kind of, create little tests, do some tests around it, see what works, because it really is mind-blowing, the range of things you can do. It's almost too much. So my advice would be try it out, give it a go, see how it could work for your organization, and see how you can use it.
Well, I agree with that. And let me add to this. It's how simple it is to do that. It is not difficult. You basically, there's a box up there that says to type in what it is you want to be said. You go and pick the avatar you want, not only the avatar you want, then you can go down a little further, and there's the language, whether you want male, female, whatever language it wants to be in, and click that button. So it's so simplistic that it's probably a bigger mistake not to use it than trying to use it.
Yeah, it is, as you said, it's really a kind of 1, 2, 3 kind of process. Do this, do that, click, done. And you've got your video in under a minute usually. We also have a mobile app. I mean, the mobile app's even, slightly easier even. And that, of course, you can use on the go. So, you see an amazing, picture, or you're out with someone, you want to, create that video right there and then. You don't have to wait until you're in front of a desktop. Use the mobile app. Or we also have plugins into PowerPoint, Google Slides, Canva. So you can, use this capability kind of in your workflow. So if you're already in PowerPoint or a Google Slide and you're making a presentation and you think, well, it'd be great if this presentation could present itself, you can go straight to the plugin and, the DID plugin and create video for the presentation. So you don't even have to be there when you present the video. The presentation, presents itself. And maybe at the end of the presentation, there's even a Q&A. So if people who've seen the presentation got questions, they can ask your agent, your digital human agent. So yeah, I think this is fascinating space, and like you said, it's very, very easy to try it out.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, that's what got me hooked, the fact that it was difficult, and the fact that you can go back and correct mistakes. And that once you do it and you find, oops, wait a minute, I said something wrong, did something wrong, you can actually go back and redo it and work on it until you get it where you want it to be. So my suggestion is not to fear it, just to get in there, roll your sleeves up, and give it a go.
I mean, that's right. The barrier to entry is so low and so cheap that it's one of the major benefits, actually, is what you end up. Imagine you're in a situation where you actually had to go to a studio, you had to film, you had to find some talent, you had to find, a camera person, do all the editing, all that. And then it turns out that some of the information you've conveyed is slightly wrong. You've got to go right way back to step one, find the studio, find the talent, etc. Well, this is like, oh, do you know what? They didn't quite say what I wanted them to say. I want to change the script a bit. Change the script, press a button, do it again. Yeah. And you can iterate multiple times. But the opportunity cost of making a video is just radically changed by this technology.
Mm-hmm. Well, Matt, is there anything that you think that we should know that we have not covered?
I mean, there is one thing, one really big area, actually, which we really focus a lot of our time and energy on, which is around kind of the responsible use of AI. Mm-hmm. So, we've been in this space for 6 years, and we've developed our kind of ethics pledge, 3 years ago, a long time before really the world was talking about it. And we've put a lot of guardrails and controls on our technology so that people can't misuse it. You can't upload pictures of famous people. You couldn't upload a picture of, Taylor Swift or, a politician. You can't put text in which is, abusive or, contains curse words or is, otherwise offensive. So, we've protected our technology quite a lot from misuse. We work with really, big industry people in this space, are on our advisory board to help us navigate this kind of responsible use of AI. And we also do quite a lot of our time, we do kind of pro bono projects like for positive social impact. So we've worked with organizations that help raise the awareness around HIV, that help women who are at risk of domestic violence by their partners. And then, probably the one we're proudest of is something we didn't even come up with it, but we were contacted by one of our users who has ALS. They have muscular dystrophy and they can't talk. But they were able, by using our technology, to take an image, as we just talked, 1, 2, 3, take an image, put some text in, press a button, and now they're publishing regularly on TikTok, because we can literally given a voice to people who were previously voiceless. So we think that we do well by doing good and by making sure that we uphold the highest ethical standards. And I think that's really important for people to know that, because we want to lead this space and lead it in the right direction.
Well, let me say this. I am so very, very happy to hear you say that, because one of the biggest issues being discussed right now are people who have malicious intent. And particularly with our presidential election coming up, folks are very, very nervous about how some folks might intend to use that for the wrong reasons. So let me say thank you for the position that the DID is taking on that one. I certainly appreciate that.
We really invested a lot of time and energy into it because it's so important.
Well, Matt, let me say, first of all, thank you so very, very much. This has been, again, an additional learning experience for me, because I'm a beginner at this, but I certainly, when I looked at your site and see what it can do, I'm already a user, as I said, because I use it to promote individual episodes of the podcast and the podcast generally. And the feedback I'm getting is that folks really, really do like what they're seeing. So I applaud you and DID for doing this work, and I'm sure there are others out there doing it as well. So let me say thank you very, very much for being a guest on the Public Relations Review podcast.
Thank you very much. It's great to have talked to you today.
Okay. And to my listeners, I hope that this has been an important eye-opener for you, and that you'll give it a try. DID, actually it was D-ID, Creative Reality Studios, and give it a go. I think that you'll be very, very impressed with what you see. And of course, we'd also like to get a review from you on our program today. And I invite you to join us for the next edition of the Public Relations Review podcast. Thank you.
This podcast is produced by Communication Strategies, an award-winning public relations and public affairs firm headquartered in Nashville, Tennessee. Thank you for joining us.
Hello, this is Peter Woolfolk. First, let me say thank you so much for being a listener. Now, I want to alert you to our shiny new podcast website located at podpage.com. However, you can go directly to the podcast site located at publicrelationsreviewpodcast.com. There, you can contact me through email. You can leave a voice message. You can leave a review. You can read an episode blog and frequently learn about the podcast guests. You might also want to suggest podcast topic ideas or even suggest a guest. You can also let me know if you would like to receive our podcast listener logo that you can post on your social media. So I look forward to hearing from you about our new podcast website. Thank you so much for listening to the Public Relations Review podcast, and have a great day.